How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews, back with a little bit of Homebrew Wednesday, courtesy of a little bit of Hazie IPA version 10, mind you, courtesy of Will and Dan. This would be the second round of homebrew beers that I've done from Will and Dan. The first one was I believe it was a Pilsner and a Hazie. The Hazie was a bit oxidized, so it wasn't really all that fair game on that one. This one looks like it might have a little bit of the same thing going on, so we'll see what's what. We'll reserve judgment. But the Pilsners came out quite fantastic. I mean, there wasn't any oxidation or anything like that on those. Now, this beer, it has this very deep gray kind of look to it. Usually, you're going to get something a bit darker when it talks about oxidation. But here, again, the way this beer kind of looks, it just has this kind of deep gray brownish kind of thing that makes it look like it has a bit of oxidation going on. Pinky finger. Beautiful head on it, though. But yeah, I mean, looking at that, I wouldn't even know what kind of style of beer to call that. So let's see if we get a nose. Actually has quite a nice nose on it. Honestly, there's a nice soft kind of orange juicy kind of fruitiness to it. All looks aside, there's this nice OJ vibe to it. Yeah, OJ leads the way. There might be like a little bit of like a little scalliony, oniony thing in there too. Very light, but it doesn't smell. It smells much better than it looks. Let's put it that way. So let's dive in. Cheers. I'm telling you right now, that does not taste bad at all. This has to be at the beginning throes of oxidation, because it's really not as far as that beer looks. As far as that beer looks, with that rich kind of dark, washed out kind of gray, you'd expect it to be lacking all fruitiness and to really kind of be kind of so far gone that it would just be this kind of oxidized, papery mess. This is not really the case. Is there a little bit of oxidation? Sure. But not nearly as much as it actually looks like in the beer itself. And it has this vibrant kind of orange juice kind of thing. A little bit of a kind of sharper hop on here. A little bit of green. There's none of that scalliony stuff I talked about in the taste. So there's a bit of green kind of weedy hop. It does drop off pretty quick and gets a little bit herbally. That might be where that oxidation is really kind of showing itself, because the first thing it's usually knocked out of these hops is that kind of that aggressiveness, whether it be the green or the fruitiness, is the first thing to go, and you're left usually with an herbal kind of thing. It finishes a bit dry, and then done and done. I mean, it's really hard pressed for me to sit here and tell you this is a total goner, as the other beer was. Give it another week, could be talking about a different story. I forget when I received these. So he sent me an email on February 12th. That's when he sent me the beer mail. Today is the 20th. So I probably got it about 4 or 5 days ago. So it's not like it's been sitting around here all that long. There is a little bit of a saccharine sweetiness to it, a little bit of refined sugar kind of sweetiness to it. That could be, again, your oxidation coming into play, knocking down a bit of that creaminess, a bit of that softness that you really try to kind of lean into, especially doing these hazy IPAs. Not too shabby. I mean, I know you probably think I'm talking all kinds of crazy shit because of the way this beer looks, and it looks pretty poopy, to be perfectly honest with you. But I can taste something that's pretty nice in here. I will say it. I mean, their last beer they sent off that was oxidized, I was like, sorry, it's oxidized. There's nothing I can even do about it. So if something's wrong or something's off, it's going to come out. And I'm blown away by how drinkable this beer is, by how it looks, because that is not an appealing looking beer by any form or fashion. Such is life. But it's still not that bad of a beer, taste-wise. Yeah, I can imagine what this would be like fresh. Probably infinitely better. But as it sits now, slightly sweet, 6.5%, fruit forward with a little bit of green, kind of hoppy hazy. You know what I mean? Not necessarily in a bad way. It's not any kind of, move mountains kind of new thing that I've never had before. But I keep switching back to the idea of how this beer looks and what it drinks like are completely different. That's probably the biggest takeaway from this, is that I've never had a beer look like this and drink like this before. and that's weird. So there you go. I don't know what else to say. I like it for what's there and what I can imagine would be there. But I mean, as far as looking at it, if I just kind of just do it as a blind beer in a black glass, it might be a little bit more appealing. Because at first I was like, do I even want to try drinking that? That's kind of how it was. But I'm telling you right now, looks can be deceiving sometimes. That's the case in this beer. So there you go. Little homebrew review in the books. Obviously, there is an oxidation issue with some of the bottles. I don't know why it's happening for you guys. I know you went as far to say that you purged these bottles before bottling them. I've had tons and tons of homebrew hazies come through the mail much longer periods of time than what you guys sent them, in much worse weather during the summer than you guys sent them, and they've been fine. So there has to be some kind of thing you guys are specifically doing, whether it be ingredient, whether it be bottling. I don't know what it is, but the Pilsners come out fine. These hazies obviously aren't progressing all that well in the bottle, so I don't know. That I can't answer. I'm not a homebrewer. I'm just a guy who drinks beer and talks on the YouTube. But I'm going to tell you right now, for how this beer looks, it's just fun. It's kind of mind-boggling. So there you go. Homebrew down. If you guys want to send some homebrew, you're more than welcome. massabeers@gmail.com or matt@massabeers.com. Send me an email. Social media is Massa Beers. Social media for the podcast, Beer Massif. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little homebrew jam. Hopefully you're enjoying some homebrew right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.